into Korean dramas? Crave for samgyeopsal or kimchi? Dance to the groove of Dynamite and Butter by BTS? You are not alone. Several locals, including the teacher of Santo Tomas District, Batangas, started experiencing these Korean waves as early as 2004. When Jewel in the Palace aired on GMA7 and the rival channel ABS-CBN aired Lovers in Paris, these Korean dramas have been dubbed into Tagalog, making them lovable for Filipino folks. Following the success of Korean dramas such as The Kingdom, All of Us Are Dead, Squid Game, Netflix is doubling down on the topics and actors that have propelled Korean entertainment to the forefront of global attention. What I have mentioned was a manifestation of Korean soft power, which was coined in a Chinese word, Hallyu or Korean wave. So what is this Korean soft power? According to Nai, soft power is a power that influences people via appeal and persuasion rather than only coercion and money, while Roll 2020 defined it as the subtle influence of a country applied through its image. The assumption behind this approach is that exposing people to cultural power or even commercial items frequently would ultimately give way to new trends. In 2020 survey, the Korean Culture and Information Services or KOSIS among the 20 countries with 10,000 respondents, the Philippines ranked number 1 in terms of areas where South Korea has the highest positive image. What makes it possible for the South Korean to be loved by our Hallyu enthusiasts? According to KAL, the Republic of Korea and the Korean Cultural Center in the Philippines intentionally led unique activities that gathered huge supports and audiences. The exhibits showcased the Korean Crafts and Design Foundation, unique skills and contemporary art pieces where enthusiasts are delighted with K-pop movies, arts, food, performance, Korean beauty products, and all things Hallyu. Unconsciously, Korean soft power permeates the country's cultural structure, gradually and softly, without sparing the public school teacher of Santo Tomas District, Batangas. Though teachers in Santo Tomas District are loving and patriotic, but proof of adopting Korean cultural goods on their social media profile are evident, such as a photo of themselves enjoying the Korean samgyeop, purchasing Korean products, and getting hooked on Korean drama and music. Could this be an implication that Santo Tomas District teachers have a double standard? Consequently, several research on the influence of Hallyu on learners and the Filipino youth has been undertaken. However, literature is scarce on the role of Korean soft power in the Filipino teacher. Thus, as a contribution to the increasing body of research, these studies seek to analyze the appreciation of public school teachers in Santo Tomas District, Batangas for Korean soft power while remaining committed to Filipino values, specifically to answer the following question. What Korean cultural power or ideas do the participants adopt? Number 2. What do they think about Korean political values and ideas? And number 3. How do they react to the cultural foreign policies of South Koreans, particularly the offering of the Korean language to the Filipinos? This study is anchored on Nai soft power theory. According to Nai, soft power is the capacity to influence people by cooperatively defining the agenda, persuading and generating favorable attraction to achieve desired goals. The fundamental term for this theory may be seen in the two descriptions, attraction and persuasion. By constantly exposing the population to aspects of soft power, the facilitator would eventually get the outcome that they want. Nye's soft power theory explained that the agenda could be facilitated by utilizing soft power three pillars. 1. Culture. 2. Political belief. And 3. Foreign policy. For one, through culture, an example of this notion is how individuals, particularly the enthusiasts, progressively acquire the Korean ideals depicted in the drama through watching it. The attraction leads to other aspects such as learning how to speak Korean, memorizing the theme song associated with the drama, craving for Korean food, desiring to visit a place featured in the drama, and aspiring to have the famous glass skin of the Korean. The second and third pillars of soft power rest in political values and foreign policy, and these two were interconnected. This is how the country's image get translated into the exterior images. Additionally, the influx of Korean merchandise such as garments, shoes, bags, and beauty products in Philippine shopping malls, as well as the Korean restaurant and Korean marts in various areas, encouraged Korean political beliefs and principles. Third is the foreign policy, which is intertwined with political values and ideas. One illustration of this notion is the Korean foreign policy is being instilled to us is the country's availability of Hangul as an elective subject in special program for foreign language in the arts. The Korean government signed a memorandum of agreement with the Philippine Education Department in 2017 for this Korean language to be part of a high school curriculum. According to former DepEd Secretary Briones, this memorandum promotes the teachings of Korean national language in junior high school as an elective subject. This study utilized the qualitative technique through narrative approach. Collection of data is through case study method, while tradition of inquiry is through criterion sampling. Methodological triangulation technique was employed in this study. First, the participants serve as the primary sources of the information. Second, the key informants corroborated or contradicted the data acquired. And finally, literature and other research assessment are carried out to link and validate the findings. Summary of findings, conclusion, and recommendations. Findings number 1. Adoption of Korean soft power increases the participant knowledge and skills, making them culturally hybrid. Conclusion number 1. Learning the Korean cultural power or Hallyu would not be harmful to the Philippine culture or educational system. Recommendation number 1. The school may enhance Filipino culture by frequently displaying local cultural talents and ingenuity through contests, events, and curricular integration. SOP number 2. What do they think about Korean political values and ideals? Finding: participants viewed South Korea as similar to the Philippines in upholding values, tradition, and education. They are also like the Philippines in terms of history, geographical location, government system, aspiration, passion to showcase people's talent through music and drama, and the use of the English language as an international language. Conclusion number 2. Similarity in political values and ideals. Appreciating similarities in Korean political values and ideals does not necessarily mean that the participants love the Korean more than Filipino values, but only as a form of cultural hybridization. Recommendation number 2. The school may help develop the Philippine political values and ideas in the teaching-learning process by comparing Korean history, geographical location, government system, custom, and tradition in such a manner that student and teacher recognize the differences that inspire them to appreciate the local political image and ideals. For SOP number 3, learners have a strong preference for the Korean language. However, not all the teachers acknowledge a desire to learn the Korean language, but they do appreciate aspects of Korean culture. Conclusion number 3. Appreciating Hangul but accentuating the Filipino language. The decision to learn another language is a personal and community one, not a national one. Recommendation number 3. It may be beneficial that a teacher and students seek to study multiple languages because this will make them not just globally competitive but also polyglot. This is Maylin Pedragosa, and this has been Korean Soft Power-Hallyu in the public school teacher in Santo Tomas District, Batangas. Thank you so much for listening.